And some of the stuff, some of you know most of this stuff also, but just bear with me. So the two main reasons for all our ancestors coming over here are the 30 Years' War and religion. Back in 1618 to 1648, there was a lot of disagreement, argument, fighting, and so on and so forth between French-speaking people and German-speaking people. And what happened in the region called the Pfalz or the Palatinate, which is excellent farmland, similar to around here, every couple of years a French army would come over, and then a couple of years later a German army would come over. This went on back and forth for 30 years. Now imagine where you're living if this happens to you. You lose a lot of your buildings, your animals, your family, your friends, your neighbors, and after 30 years of putting up with this, the few who are left are sick and tired of staying there. They're looking for some place to go. And most of this fighting, or a lot of the fighting, maybe not most of it, was based on religion. Catholics in France, and Protestants in Germany, or what would become Germany. So anyway, along comes a guy you might have heard of named William Penn. William Penn's mother was from Holland, so she spoke Holland Dutch. And when she got married, she had luck enough to marry a guy that became an admiral. Admiral Penn, William Penn's father. So apparently he did really well, and when the King of England needed money, he loaned him money. Well, the king was no dummy. In order to save himself from having to pay back a lot of money to Admiral Penn, he said, I know what I'll do. I'll just give him a whole lot of land across the pond. So that's what he did. And Admiral Penn took it, but what's he going to do with a lot of land in America? So he gave it to his son, William Penn. And as we all know, it was named after him, Penn's Woods, Pennsylvania. So now, after making 2 trips up and down the Rhine, promising all kinds of stuff like freedom of occupation, freedom of religion, and so on and so forth, a new start, he managed to get thousands and thousands of people to come over. They would sell what they had left, gather together what they had, and since the Autobahn wasn't finished yet, they had to go down the Rhine River. And the Rhine River was dangerous too. There were a lot of robbers along the way. But they got down to Holland. They might stay there for a month or two, a year or two, cross the Channel to England, another month or two, or a year or two, and finally set sail to America. This was terrifying and deadly. Thousands of people died on the way over. How did they pay for this? Most of them couldn't. So they signed agreements to become indentured servants, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. When they got over here, they would work for somebody who paid their way. And after 3 or 5 or 7 years, they were supposed to be given clothing and a plot of land, which happened pretty often, but not all the time. So that's why and how and when all these people came over here. Some came from neighboring regions, not just from the Pfalz, Alsace and Lorraine, 2 areas that are in France now, went back and forth between France and Germany many times. Some from Switzerland. A large group of Huguenots came from the Palatinate after leaving France, stayed there for 10 years, and came over and sailed up the Hudson River and founded a town up there, which you can go visit today. And I have a mental block here, can't think of the name of it, but it's up there. I've been there, and it's a really neat place. When they came over here, most of them were farmers and or craftsmen, and they came in groups. If you were going to go on a trip like this, you're not going to go by yourself across the ocean, down the Rhine, stay in 1 or 2 other countries. So they come in groups of 15, 20, 25, 30. And when they got over here, they stay in the same groups. That's why today, when you go from Lehigh to Lebanon to Berks to Schuylkill, you'll find little variations in the dialect. It's not always the same because it was different when they came from. There was no standard German. It was all dialects. And how come we're called Dutch? Well, according to Dr. Don Yoder, who was considered the world expert on Pennsylvania German culture and history, University of Pennsylvania, a friend of mine, he said, back in those days, if you were British, the people across the channel were either Dutch or French, and they didn't like the French, and the French didn't like them. So that included people from Holland, Belgium, Luxembourg, Germany, what would become Germany, Switzerland, even parts of Denmark, Austria, Poland, they were all Dutch. So Dutch is historically correct. On the other hand, if you're talking about the language, it is very similar to German, especially Old German. So Pennsylvania German is linguistically correct. Okay? So that's the history in a nutshell. Going on to the language, as I said, there was no standard German. There were all these dialects, and the further you went from one town to another town, the more the dialects changed. Well, suppose you wanted to read a book. Probably you couldn't even read because only the educated people could read and the rich people. So the priests, the merchants, the nobility, they could read. And they could barely afford a book themselves because they all had to be handwritten. Until some guy you may have heard about named Gutenberg invented the printing press. Ta-da! Now we can print lots of books much cheaper and much faster. But what language are we going to print them in? Well, there's 75, 100, 150 dialects. You're not going to print books in 150 dialects. So what do we do? Well, we have the three people most responsible for standardizing German. They are Martin Luther, who literally went around talking to people because he wanted to print his version of the Bible. He didn't want to print it in 150 different dialects. So he helped standardize German dialects in the western part of Germany. In the north, there were two guys named Grimm. Grimm's fairy tales, the Grimm brothers. When I did some research, I was amazed that they were university professors. They did the same thing. They didn't want to print their fairy tales, which they thought were so important. They collected many of them. They don't want to print them in many dialects, so they helped standardize German in that part of the country. Germany became a country in 1871. And standard German, which is what we learn in school today, and I like to use the term standard German, not High German, although we say Hochdeutsch, which means High German, because people think Hochdeutsch, well, it's much better, much more important, much more correct than Pennsylvania Dutch. No, it's just different. In fact, in the beginning, when we said High German and Low German, they were altitude descriptions. People in southern Germany, where the Alps are, spoke a High German dialect or dialects. People in the north, near the North Sea, spoke dialects in the northern part of Germany, where the land was low, so they were Low German dialects. This gets to be very, very confusing. Sometimes I even get confused. Anyway, so that's pretty much where and how and who developed the language High German. And I use Hochdeutsch also, but I try to explain that it's not really more important. When it comes to me, I have a humongous resume. Amongst the things I did, I was a speaker for the Pennsylvania Humanities Council for about 10 years, went all over the state, doing programs on Pennsylvania German music and folklore and instruments. I was one of 24 people in their TV series for 2 years, one a month. It was quite an honor. I performed at almost any Pennsylvania German or Dutch festival you can think of in Pennsylvania. Been over to Germany 7 times, performing over there in the Palatines and the Pfalz. A few times with my band and with our Hodan group. I was founder of the Lions Fiddle Festival and now the new Berks Fiddle Fest. I am the music coordinator, MC, and band leader there. I have three CDs, some with English, most in Pennsylvania Dutch, some in German. I do a fantastic impersonation of the Pennsylvania Dutch Santa Claus, the Belsnickel. I can scare the bejesus out of anybody, etc., etc. One of my favorite things to do is the Pennsylvania Dutch comedian, like Professor Schnitzel, if you remember he was. And I was fortunate enough, there's an international newsletter called Hiva Vita Riva, which means over here like over there, or over there like over here. And last summer, I was put inside there on a long interview and put on the cover in my costume. And there you can see me in my costume, and my stage name is Dr. Witzelsucht. Ich bin der Dr. Witzelzucht, boom boom. And the biggest honor I had in my life, they granted me Best International Artist of the Year for my comedian shtick. And I call it a shtick because it is a shtick. And on the more serious side, I did teach Pennsylvania German as a language as a 3-credit course at Kutztown University for 3 years. So, du kannst mich da. I have all kinds of stuff, that's a technical term, on my website, Toad Creek Music, www.toadcreekmusic.com. There's all kinds of stuff there. If you even Google my name, Keith Brensenhoff, you will find lots and lots of short videos from my programs for the Pennsylvania Humanities Council. So sooner or later, you will run into me. You can't avoid me. You know, that's the way it goes. So since I have a couple of minutes here yet, I'll do my first song of 3 on the more common instrument. And as you all know, this is a guitar. The reason it fits is that the guitar is basically a Spanish development, but the Spanish guitar, called classical today, is smaller, rounder, built differently, played differently, and has nylon strings, which I can't stand because they got a tune all the time. Back in the early 1900s, there was a guy, he invented this size, shape, style guitar called Dreadnought, put steel strings on it, and now it's louder, more stable, stays in tune better, and his name was Martin, as in Martin Guitars. Guess what nationality Martin was? German. Wow, what a coincidence. It is amazing how much German and Pennsylvania Dutch influence there is on string instruments especially. This is the most typical Pennsylvania Dutch song in the world, I believe. It tells about a typical Pennsylvania Dutch family. A couple 100 years ago, which means they probably lived on a farm. On the farm, they had cows. The cows gave milk. They had cats. Cats drank the milk. They had dogs. The dogs chased the cats. They all lived on the farm, and they were all Pennsylvania Dutch. That's a very clever title. It's called My Father and Mother Are Dutch. So listen to the melody. I'm going to give you a quiz question afterwards. This is a very old, very well-known folk melody. What's this melody? My father and mother sind Dutch, my father and mother sind Dutch, my father and mother sind Dutch, und ich bin Dutch, oh, und ich bin Dutch, oh, und ich bin Dutch, oh, my father and mother sind Dutch, und ich bin Dutch, oh. My lever auf der Bavarai, my lever auf der Bavarai, my lever auf der Bavarai, und die ist Deutsch, oh, und die ist Deutsch, oh, und die ist Deutsch, oh, my lever auf der Bavarai, und die ist Deutsch, oh. Now the cow, my hen cootie gap, blended on, my hen cootie gap, blended on, my hen cootie gap, blended on, when she is Deutsch, oh, when she is Deutsch, oh, when she is Deutsch, oh. My hen cootie gap, blended on, when she is Deutsch, oh. Let's see, my hen cat. My hen cat, sie trinkt daran, my hen cat, sie trinkt daran, my hen cat, sie trinkt daran, when she is Deutsch, oh. When she is Deutsch, oh. When she is Deutsch, oh. My hen cat, sie trinkt daran, when she is Deutsch, oh. Here comes the dog. My hen and hond and I yak the cats, my hen and hond and I yak the cats, my hen and hond and I yak the cats, when I stage, oh, when I stage, oh, when I stage, oh, my hen and hond and I yak the cats, when I stage, oh. My father and mother sind Dutch, my father and mother sind Dutch, my father and mother sind Dutch, when ich bin Dutch, oh, when ich bin Dutch, oh, when ich bin Dutch, oh, my father and mother sind Dutch, when ich bin Dutch, oh.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Keith. That was great. Was that sounded like Skip to My Lou? Was that the tunes?
Well, actually, there's a couple melodies, but the original melody is the bear went over the mountain, the bear went over the mountain, the bear went over the mountain to see what he could see. And you know what he saw, right? The other side of the mountain. Isn't that clever? They just don't ride them like that anymore.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We're going to switch over now and have our business meeting. And then as soon as we get through, we will go back and Keith will entertain us a little more. So I'm going to mute you now, Keith, and move on here. Okay. So there we are. Okay. So thank you for whetting our Pennsylvania Dutch appetites. And as I say, we're going to get through the meeting as quickly as we can so that we can get back to Keith's wonderful program. We do ask that all participants remain muted unless you're making a motion or voting. I think the settings are such that you can unmute yourself, and then when you speak your piece, please switch back so that you are muted again. And we are recording today's meeting and Keith's presentation, and we'll make it available afterwards on the PalAm YouTube channel and share the link with our members probably in the next PalAm Pen Pal issue. So let's get started. I am Janet Rupert. I'm the president of the Pennsylvania chapter. And just thought I'd mention that this image that you are seeing and on the top of the slide is the one that we have on our Facebook page. But in case you don't know what it is, this is the building on the right is Colonial Philadelphia's courthouse. And our Palatine ancestors who arrived in Pennsylvania in the 1700s would have been escorted to this building from the docks where they landed on their ships to sign their oaths of allegiance. And Strasburger and Hankey's Pennsylvania German Pioneers series compiled those surviving oaths lists, so that's where they came from. But it seemed like the courthouse was a good image to share of our for our chapter. Okay. I would like to welcome our new members. Our chapter is growing and we're delighted to have some of our newest members joining us today. So we hope you enjoy today's meeting and our presentation. And I am trying to figure out how to get rid of the box that's on the top of the screen that I am sharing. And because I'm sure that's distracting, but I can't figure out how to do that. Make this go away. All right, I'm sorry. I guess that'll just have to be there. Okay. All right, so here is our agenda. And yesterday we sent out a packet of background material with the reminder message, and I hope you received that. If not, Lloyd is going to post a link to it in the chat, and you should be able to click on that and get to the background material, which includes the agenda, the minutes from our last meeting, my report, and information about our election. So I believe we have a couple of folks who signed up to attend who are not Pennsylvania chapter members. So just a reminder that if you're not a current member of the Pennsylvania chapter, you're not eligible to vote at our meeting. So I am now calling the meeting to order, and we will start with the minutes from last year's annual meeting. There we go. So the complete minutes of last year's meeting are in the background material. So Charlene, can you unmute yourself, and would you like to talk about any of these highlights?
Okay, I hope everyone has had time to look over the minutes, and do you have any questions, comments, corrections? I believe if you want to make a comment, you need to unmute yourself. Okay, now Janet, now I don't know, how are we going to make a vote for approval if everyone is muted?
Okay, so if someone can unmute themselves and make a motion to accept the secretary's, the minutes from the previous meeting.
I make some motion.
Okay, and that was Virginia Hurdy.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. And second,
I'll second it, Lloyd Schenberger.
okay, thank you. So all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Okay, hearing no opposition, the minutes are accepted. Thank you, Charlene. So next up is my report. And the full report is in the background material, but I'd like to highlight a couple of the points. As I mentioned earlier, our membership is growing and we're up by nearly 20% from where we were last year. So I think we're doing something right. I do hope that some of you who are new members or who have been around a while will consider becoming more actively involved. We always can use assistance, and your skill set might line up with something that we need. So if you have a little bit of time, if you think you might be interested in getting a little more involved, please reach out to us and let's talk. Because you don't have to be local. If the pandemic's taught us anything, it's that we can operate in a very dispersed environment, and we can accomplish a great deal even with people all across the country participating. Vacating the storage unit was certainly a big task, but accomplishing that has reduced our expenses significantly. Lloyd will talk about that in a moment. And it's also given us a much better understanding of the chapter's history and business over the years. Was a lot of material there that was interesting. Some of it was very duplicative, but it was interesting to go through it and kind of see the evolution of the chapter over the 30s or nearly 40, I guess, years that it's existed. But we've gone from a small storage unit full of boxes and papers to about 5 boxes and nearly 500 digital files, which are now in a location where they can be readily available to future boards. So I want to give a big thank you to my husband, Lee, who was our master scanner for this effort, and who pretty much ran all the paper through the scanner and made sure that it had created good copies. So thank you, honey. And we'll talk more about the other topics on this slide as we move through our meeting.
You're welcome.
Okay, so next up is our treasurer's report. And Lloyd Schenberger, who is our chapter treasurer, will give an overview of our financial position.
Yes, okay, so our fiscal year runs from April 1st to March 31st. And these two pie charts show the income and expenses for our most recent fiscal year that ended March 31st of 2021. The chart on the left is our income. And you can see by the chart that most of the income is from membership dues and donations. And our total income for the year was $2,958. Chart on the right is a chart of our expenses for the year. Our total expenses were $2,001. So for the year, our income exceeded our expenses, giving us a surplus of $957. As of March 31st, since the March 31st year end, we have received additional income of $2,027 from dues and generous donations. And we are obviously very appreciative of the support from our members. You will notice on the expense pie chart that our largest expense for 2021 was the rent. As Janet had mentioned, we have now canceled that lease on that rental unit, and the unit was used for storage of books and old records. So this was canceled effective June 30th of 2021. And at that time during the year, our total rent for the unit was $1,171, and during the year we had experienced an increase of $101 to $101 a month. So that has now been canceled. So the expenses going forward will be much lower, at least no more rent expense. And that's all that I have. If there's any questions, put them in the chat or save them for later and we'll address them.
Okay. So, as Lloyd mentioned, our financial position is good, and we're hoping that when we are able again to have an in-person event seminar, we'll be able to offer a significant discount to members in appreciation of sticking with us, but we're also looking at other ways to continue to provide content and benefits to all of our members, even those who aren't able to attend in-person events. So do I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
I so move, Marcia.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
I second.
Okay. I think the name I saw come up was Lynn McAllister for the second. So all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Thank you very much, Lloyd. So now we're on to our membership report, and Ken Weaver, you want to take it away?
I sure will. For what it's worth, but since Keith mentioned it, the brothers Grimm were professors at Philipps Universität in Marburg, Deutschland, in Hessen, and I was a student there. And no, I didn't have them. But anyway, getting back to PA chapter membership, here's a map of where our members are from as of October 8th. This has varied a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but not dramatically. The states with a red number in them are the top 10. Notice most of our members are Pennsylvania and then the states due west of there, but because there's a PALAM chapter in Colorado, we have significant number of members there. And the number of Pennsylvania Germans that left for California during the gold rush obviously has helped to spark our membership there as well. So you can move on, Janet, to the details.
Whoops. There we go.
Yep, here are the top 10 states. You can see Pennsylvania is at the top of the list. Out of the 336, were 63 members from Pennsylvania, Ohio following at 35, and so forth and so on down the list, with New York being the last of the top 10. We have 5 international members, 2 from Canada, 3 from Germany, 2 from the District of Columbia. There wasn't room on the map, first map on the screen to indicate that, so I added it here. We do have a crowd of states from which we have no members. So you can see them listed there: Alaska, Arkansas, Kentucky. I'm not going to read the list to you all, but there's where we are. We are currently in renewal time. Actually, we're beyond renewal time. PALAM has a very unique membership year from October 1st to September 30th. So officially, if you've not paid your dues for the 2022 year, you will shortly be removed from our list. In accordance with what National is doing with their membership, as of November 15th, those that have not paid for the current membership year will be removed. We really don't want you to do that. Holler if you need assistance in filing a new membership and paying your dues. I'll be more than happy to help. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer those as well.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
All right, so next order of business is the election of officers. This year, the terms of membership registrar, treasurer, and 2 members at large are expiring. Unfortunately, we don't have a nominating committee or a chair, so the board members have kind of been covering these duties, and this year's slate of officers are all current incumbents. If you would like more information about what's involved with any of the board positions, we do have a volunteer fact sheet. And I believe Lloyd is going to post the link to that fact sheet in the chat. It was also included with the reminder message that we sent out yesterday. Again, as I mentioned earlier, think about it, see if you have some skills that you might fit in somewhere. We'd love to hear from you. So these are the board position nominees. Ken Weaver as our membership registrar, Lloyd Schenberger, treasurer, and members at large are Kenneth Schuck and Roberta Newcomer. We did include their bios in the background material. We do have a vacancy for another member at large if anyone is interested. And as noted, we really could use a nominating committee chair. Remember, if you are a chapter member, you can nominate yourself. So any nominations from the floor, questions, comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the nominations?
So moved.
Thank you, Stanley. Do I have a second?
Second, Brian Hartzell.
Okay, Brian Hartzell, thank you. All in favor of accepting the nominations? Yeah, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. So the motion carries, and we welcome Ken, Lloyd, and Roberta to the chapter board for another 2 years. And again, if anybody else is interested in working with us, or maybe just attending a board meeting to see what it's like, let us know. And we'll be happy to let you know when the next meeting is. Okay. So as we move further into the online world, we need help in a couple of other areas. And the duties and functions of these 3 appointed positions kind of overlap. So one person might share responsibilities with others and work together. So Lloyd's going to talk a little more about the website administrator in a few minutes. The social media coordinator role is primarily to help us maintain standards and have a consistent online presence. And we can share a summary of that position with anyone who's interested. Public relations publicity is just somebody to keep our name out there, reach out to other societies and organizations, help make us more known, and maybe coordinate with other societies so that we share their announcements, they share ours, and that sort of thing. So again, always looking for help. Think about it. If you think there's an area here that might match up with your skill set, send us an email. Okay. I want to give a big shout out to Ginger Hurdy, who has been a wonderful asset to us with our Facebook page. She joined our chapter last year and volunteered earlier this year to serve as one of our Facebook coordinators. And she's just done an amazing job of finding interesting content and posting nearly every day, so that it keeps our site active. We've got a lot of followers. We have a lot of other societies and individuals who regularly share our posts, and our site is the envy of the other PalAm chapters. So thank you, Ginger. We love what you're doing. And if anybody has any ideas or suggestions for Facebook posts, let us know.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm currently on the road from Sedona, Arizona to Lake Mead. And so I don't have any video, but it saw fit to put me on safe driving mode, but I appreciate the kudos. I really enjoy the site. I'm glad everybody is enjoying it and responding. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And Lloyd is going to talk a little bit about our progress in creating a dedicated chapter website, next steps, and our need for your help and input.
Yes, the website committee has spent a lot of time over the last several months evaluating different options for a website and working on some initial website design. The committee members are Diane Robinson, Ken Shuck, Stanley Yan, and Lloyd Schemberger. So this bar chart shows the highest requested website features from our members in the survey that we took almost a year ago now. And obviously these will be included in the initial design. So currently we are working on the initial design of a website to try and bring it online. As the website, after it becomes online, additional features beyond this will be added initially, and as we move on through the website after it becomes active, we can always add more. So the Pennsylvania chapter has recently signed a contract with Blue Crab Software to develop our website. Now, Blue Crab Software is the owner of EasyNet Sites, and Blue Crab provides a turnkey solution for website development and hosting at a very reasonable cost. So it specializes in providing websites for genealogical and historical societies. In addition to the website on the internet, EasyNet Sites also provide some backroom features that will help manage the society. These would include membership management, event management, emails, contact management, and some other tools. So our new website hopefully will be online after the beginning of the new year. And as Janet mentioned, we are looking for members to volunteer to assist in the development and the maintenance of the website after it goes online. You do not need to be a website guru. You don't have to know HTML or anything else to be able to manage the website. It is, if you can use a word processor, you can pretty much do everything you need to do in this. And obviously one person will not be doing all of it, but we do need someone to kind of coordinate activities of the people who are volunteering to do that. So anybody who's interested, you can let Janet know or put your information into the chat box and we will get back to you on that. And we do appreciate all the input we received so far on helping to design this. It's given us some good direction of where to start, what we should do first.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, this has been a goal of ours for a little while, and it's exciting to see it beginning to come to fruition. So I thank Lloyd for all of his help and leadership in getting this going. Much appreciated. All right, so we ventured into the world of virtual seminars earlier this year when I gave a session on exploring Pennsylvania land records online. It was my first attempt at this kind of thing, and most disconcerting is kind of the same thing that I'm seeing today is I can't see all of you who are participating when I'm looking at my slides. So that's, a little bit challenging, but beyond that, it went well. We had very positive feedback, and it is available on the PalAm YouTube channel. I believe I included the link in the handout. We're hoping to do some more of this kind of thing in 2022, and we welcome ideas and suggestions for possible topics. Again, you can use the chat box if you have any thoughts at the moment, or feel free to email us and share your ideas. Another real asset to the chapter is our newsletters. And Marcia Dreisbach-Falconer, who is our newsletter editor, will talk a little bit more about the Pen Pal.
Thank you, Janet. Hi there, all you people that I only see through the Pen Pal newsletter, which I would like to actually see you. I do get feedback from you and I appreciate it. The Pen Pal, there were 6 issues published in the last year since the last meeting, and there's usually somewhere between 16 and 18 pages per issue, and they're great fun to put out. Used to be that the Pen Pal was the only way we could talk to you guys. I mean, there was just no other way. And of course, now everything is exploding, and we've got the wonderful Facebook, and soon we'll have the website. And there's an interesting question is, what does this do to the newsletter? So the newsletter has got to change and evolve in contrast or in combination with our other online presence. And that's a big discussion, an ongoing discussion, and one that I would greatly appreciate your feedback from. How would you like to see the newsletter evolve so that it complements the website and Facebook? Up till now, we've had a lot of member input into the Pen Pal, which I really like. And I want you to keep sending things, your suggestions for topics you would like to see covered, your contributions, anything that has to do with the German genealogy. That is the specific underpinning of what we're trying to do. So your contributions should somehow relate to your experience with German genealogy, or what you want to know about, or family recipes, all sorts of things like that. So I do appreciate all your letters and all the people who've helped. And if you could put up the next slide, please, Janet.
Oops, wrong way. Sorry.
So here's a list of the people who have contributed over this past year. And as you can see, there were people on the left who presented articles, and at the bottom, Ed Wevodow has written 4 articles, 4 fantastic articles for which I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. Ed, if you're on, thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to more. On the right are the letters that have been published that virtually everybody who sent a letter has given me permission to reprint it. And many of the letters are in response to Janet's kind letter that she sends out to new members, telling them a bit about the chapter and what we do, and asking for their feedback. And they have sent in some very interesting letters and then allowed me to put them into the Pen Pal. So thank you one and all for responding. For all the rest of you out there, send me stuff, anything. You don't have to be a writer. Any article that you send should be between 1 and 4 pages long, and it probably will be edited, but we will do that in combination together, and you'll have final approval. And recipes, old family German-based recipes, no Chinese recipes or something, South American recipes, because much as good as they may be, they sort of can go somewhere else, not in the Pen Pal. And I do hope that you will continue to send suggestions and keep reading. And once again, thank you all for your participation. I really appreciate it. And it's great fun to put it out. So thanks again. That's it, Janet. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Marcia. And thank you again to all who've contributed. Okay, so under new business, we'd like to talk just briefly about what we have planned or hoping to achieve, hoping to do in 2022. So Roberta, would you talk about the upcoming conference in Denver?
Sure. I'd like to invite everyone to come to Denver to mine your past. We're very excited. We have Dr. Grams coming from Germany as one of our main speakers. And another main speaker is Daniel Jones, who is a German expert at the Family History Library in Salt Lake City. So we're very excited about having these 2 very knowledgeable and wonderful speakers. And so we're going to be meeting at the DoubleTree in Denver, Colorado, and it is June 17 and 18 on next year, 2022. And we have a day ahead, we have a tour planned of the German area in Denver. And that is, they have the local historian is going to be on the bus with us and explaining what we're seeing. And we have a wonderful lunch planned for that day. And then we're also, that same Thursday, we're going to be having a meet and greet at the hotel for so that we can get acquainted with one another. It's been so long since we've been face to face that this is pretty exciting. So that's going to be part of the fun too. And then on Friday evening, we have a banquet, and we have a speaker lined up for that as well. And we give some awards. And so it's just a wonderful time to get together and get to know other PALAM members and to learn new things from our speakers. So I hope to see you there. That's June 17th and 18th in next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. I'm looking forward to it. For our chapter's 2022 annual meeting and seminar next year, we are hoping that we can meet in person somewhere in the fall. But you know, the course of the pandemic, it's hard to say for sure, but we're fingers crossed. We have a few ideas of what we might like to do. We're not quite ready to announce anything yet. So watch the newsletter, watch the Facebook page when we have a plan, why we will be sharing it. So Diane, did you join us yet? Okay, I guess Diane Robinson, our vice president, was hoping to be here, but she had some family obligations. So I guess she hasn't made it. So I'll just mention that one of the things that Diane is working on is some possible small group excursions kinds of things. We're thinking about like a day trip to, say, the Pennsylvania Archives in Harrisburg, or the Mennonite Historical Society in Lancaster, or the Lancaster Historical Society, or apropos of our recent special issue, the Berks County Historical Center. So Diane is beginning to look into this as possibility, and when we have some plans, we'll put something out and invite people to sign up. We haven't quite figured out what a small group is, but we thought that keeping it to a smaller number might make people more comfortable in this era of social distancing and not being sure about getting together in large groups. So we're just hoping that that will be something that we can do with, you know, it's probably more for our local members, but we're also thinking about maybe doing some virtual seminars in conjunction with some of those small group excursions, where like maybe we do something with a state archivist talking to us about how to use the records, maybe in advance of an actual excursion to the archive. So we're still putting together ideas, and we welcome additional suggestions, but we really, our goal is to figure out ways that we can provide some meaningful benefits to our members. So that is pretty much it for the formal part of our meeting. Do we have any questions or comments at this point? If not, then do I have a motion to adjourn so we can return to Keith?
I move that we adjourn. This is Lloyd.
Thank you. Second?
I second Ken, Chuck.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and hopefully, let me stop this. There we go. Okay. Oh, it's good to see everybody out there. Okay. So I am going to turn it back over to Keith and mute myself. Okay, Keith, you ready to take it away?
IR. I want to thank Mr. Weaver for letting us know that he actually went to the same school at the Grimm brothers, the university the Grimm brothers taught at. I never met or heard of anybody who went there. But of course, he said he didn't have them. I guess it was a scheduling conflict. That's my guess. Anyway, Marsha said, keep it under 4 hours. So I'm going to keep it under 4 hours. Way under 4 hours. I did forget one very important thing. I'm going to hold this up. A couple of years ago, a German film company, made a documentary on Pennsylvania Germans and Palatinate people in Germany, how they're alike, how they're different. It's called Hirvit River. I'm in the movie at a few different places. They showed it at a bunch of places around here, including Kutztown Folk Festival. It is amazingly well done and accurate. A lot of it's in local dialect, Palatinate dialect, but there are always English translations on there. So if you don't understand Dutch or German or whatever, you can understand what they're saying and what they're doing. Okay, I mentioned that. And if you wonder where to get one, two good places. Number one, and you can Google Pennsylvania German Cultural Heritage Center. That's a mouthful, I know. That's at Kutztown University. And if you remember Kutztown University, you can get to the Heritage Center through them. Or, more direct, there's a fantastic bookstore in Kutztown called Firefly Bookstore. They sell them. Firefly Bookstore in Kutztown. They'll be glad to help you. And now, back to my program. I'm going to go through about 6 or 8 different categories, including my instruments. So first of all, religion, because a lot of this is based on religion. And as you know, we have the Amish, the Old Order Mennonites. They only make up maybe 20% of the total Pennsylvania Germans here, depending where you look and who you ask. Lutheran, which I was raised. UCC, I made the big change to UCC. There's a lot of bad jokes about changing from one of those to the other, and most of them you can't tell in mixed company. And smaller groups like the Schwenkfelders. There are occasionally around here Catholic churches that were Pennsylvania Dutch also. As far as the Amish go, they got their name from Jacob Ammons in Switzerland. And the Mennonites are named after Menno Simons, who was in northwestern Germany. I am dressed as the typical Dutchman would have been years ago. The main things are the suspenders. They're not the flashy red ones. They are leather or material. And the pants are an old style called broadfall because zippers had not been invented, and they still don't use them. Kind of like the pants that they wear in the Navy yet, okay? Two big things about the religion. Number one, there were many union churches. They were small, couldn't afford a full-time minister or a big building, so a lot of times they had different religions sharing a church, Lutheran and UCC, Mennonite, Lutheran, Schwenkfelder, whatever, and they'd alternate weeks or sometimes times. They liked when they alternated weeks because then you only had to go to church every other week. You know, what can I say? And the other thing is powwow, which is a faith healing practice. If you have a question about that, ask me when this thing is over, because I don't want to take a lot of time. I have a lot of interesting comments about that. Let's go to the people. A lot of famous people. George Washington had bodyguards from New England. There was a secret threat to assassinate him. It was discovered. Next time he picked his own bodyguards. They were all, this is fact, Pennsylvania Germans, and most of them were from Kutztown area. When I found this first found this out, I was just astounded. The first Speaker of the House of Representatives was Pennsylvania German, and he put some things in the congressional record in Pennsylvania Dutch. Names you might recognize. Oh, one other thing. It came within one vote in the state Congress, the House and the Senate, of making German the official language of Pennsylvania. Isn't that amazing? And then names you recognize like Goodyear, Weiser, Hershey, Muhlenberg, Wanamaker, Eisenhower, etc., etc. Okay, let's go with what they're well known for. Another thing, arts, crafts, inventions. Famous for pottery. The big old clocks stood in the hallway, grandfather's clocks. Furniture. Church organs, most of them in the Mid-Atlantic States region, were built by German craftsmen. Quilts, we know that's fantastic. I tried quilling once. It didn't go too well, though, just so. And we have tin and, sorry, it's a disease. Tin and pewtersmiths. Band boxes, which have nothing to do with bands. Maybe some of you know, therefore, Hats. Hats were a big fashion. Fraktur, fancy, broken, colored writing. Sharon Schnitter, fancy scissors cutting. Barnes with the hex signs. That's another whole can of worms, which we won't go into. One really neat thing, Conestoga wagons were developed, invented, and made by the Pennsylvania Germans, named after the Conestoga River, which flows into the Susquehanna. Which brings me to my first instrument. Remember, any questions or comments, save them for the end. This is hard to see here. I'll go in order. It goes down like this. It's called an Appalachian or mountain dulcimer. They were invented and developed by the Pennsylvania Germans, although hardly anybody knows that. We hardly ever get credit for it. Comes from an old German instrument called a Scheitholt. Scheit has a few meanings: solid, nice, pretty. Holt is Holz, which is wood. When they were developed around here, they carried with them when they moved away from here looking for more farmland. So they followed the valleys of the Appalachians, moved southwest from here. It about died out around here and survived in the valleys of the southern Appalachians. Many years ago, a man named Alan Smith did his doctoral dissertation on the history of the mountain dulcimer. Where did he do it? This is really weird. He did it at the University of Leeds. That's near London, England. Wow, go figure. I was in contact with him. I bought his book, published by the University of Missouri Press, and now there are hundreds of descriptions and pictures of dulcimers, and we know they were invented and developed by the Pennsylvania Germans. And what's it like? Well, it usually has 3 or 4 strings, as you can see. It's one of the world's easiest instruments to play melody on. It's tuned, well, there are 6 different tunings. They all have Greek names. At least they're all Greek to me. This one is called Ionian. We call it Do Re Mi. It's the one we know. And there are many songs played on here. Most of them were slow and or religious. What else about this? That's pretty much about it. I'm going to do a Pennsylvania lullaby for you. I'll only sing one verse. Listen to the melody first, and then I'll sing a verse. I have sung this song hundreds of times in my life at festivals, workshops, and to try and put our 2 kids to sleep. I want to tell you, it doesn't always work. But if you fall asleep, yay! Slow, bubbly, slow. Da da di di show. Di mammi di weiße Key. Sie kommt nicht heim, ist Maria fri. Slow, bubbly, slow. Oops. I hope somebody fell asleep. I know I almost did. So this is called the mountain or lap or strummed or plucked or Appalachian dulcimer. Usually, well, 2 main shapes. One is teardrop. That's really easy to make. This is hourglass. This is a lot harder to bend the sides. And you see the fingerboard there. And the melody notes are the first 2 strings, and the other strings make harmony notes. So it's really hard to screw up playing dulcimer. If you weren't a first choice of an instrument, this is it. Okay, let me check my notes. I need a lot of notes. I'm a musician. Come on, think about it. Okay, another instrument has German connections. Is this thing, which you all know is a harmonica. In Dutch, it's a maal-orgel. That's a mouth organ. Bunch of neat things about this. First of all, it's set up so that 4 notes or 4 holes in a row make a chord. One way, 1 chord. Other way, another chord. If you know how to breathe, you can play harmonica. That includes most of you. Okay? The other thing is it's set up in order, do, re, mi scale, like this. Okay? Another thing, Guess where most of the first and the best harmonicas were made? In Germany. Boy, you guys are sharp. I am so impressed. So here's a Pennsylvania Dutch folk song called Highly High Low, which are nonsense syllables, sometimes called the Drunne Daheim, which means down there at home on the farm. So I'll play it first and I'll sing one verse for you. Da drunna daheim hennel alli ku, sie frester hojen nem går net zu. Heilig, heilo, heilig, heilo, bei uns geht's immer ja so. Bei uns geht's immer so means with us, that's the way it always goes. And as in a true folk song, people would add verses, subtract verses, change verses, and go on and on and on until somebody got totally bored or screamed and hollered. All right? So that's a harmonica. Let's go back to a little talk here. One of my favorite things to talk about when it comes to Pennsylvania Dutch. Food. Oh my God. One of the biggest oxymorons in the world is Pennsylvania Dutch diet food. Never happened. Okay, now all the foods I'm going to remember, most of them are broken down into entrees, sides, and desserts and snacks. They're all popular. Many of them were invented and developed by the Pennsylvania Germans. So starting out with the main dishes, we have pot pie, which is not a pie and it's not made in a pot. Pfft, who knew? Schnitzelknepp, which is dried apples and dumplings. One of my personal favorites, a lot of people get disgusted with this, pig stomach. Yum. And of course, New Year's Day, you have to have pork and sauerkraut. Why? Because you want to go forward and pigs right forward. Don't eat chicken scratch backwards. You don't want to go backwards. And then we have Scrabble. Oh my God. If you knew what was in Scrabble, you probably would never eat it. That's okay. Almost the same thing works for sausage. Oh my God, do I love sausage. Smoked and fresh. Mush, good for breakfast. A weird one, Boevenschenkel. Boevenschenkel technically means boy's legs, or boy's thighs, actually. It's like pierogies, except they are twice as big and twice as much butter, so they're twice as good as pierogies. Some more Pennsylvania Dutch diet food. Now, I like almost all Pennsylvania Dutch food. There's one thing I really can't stand, liver and onions. And everybody tries to feed it to me. Oh, you'll love the way I make it. Wrong. Another thing, very popular, corn pie, with or without hard-boiled eggs. My mother used to make it half of the pie without hard-boiled eggs, the other half with. Yum. Okay, let's try some sides. Filling, potato filling. No, it's not mashed potatoes. That's a world of difference. Everybody who comes to the area from outside the area, we have to explain to them. No, it's not mashed potatoes. Apple dumplings. Sugar peas. I love all kinds of ethnic foods. The only cultures that use sugar peas a lot are the Pennsylvania Dutch and the Chinese. They call them snow peas. Go figure. Okay. Apple butter, of course. World famous chow chow. Unless you're not very hungry, then you just eat chow. Okay. Apple and corn fritters. Of course, yum. Breakfast or lunch, whatever. Red beets and red beet eggs. Oh my God, what a local favorite. And here's something people think we're weird. Dandelion is not a weed, it's a green. And you put hot bacon dressing on it, oh my God, you're as close to heaven as you'll get until you're dead. Fried potatoes. Yum, yum. We have Dutch fries at the Kutztown Folk Festival. They are the best in the world. Now, here's one that most people don't know much about. Pies. My father used to always say, it's not a pie unless it has a lid on it. If it doesn't have a top, then it's a custard or a tart or something else. Some of our favorite, specifically Pennsylvania Dutch ones, are rhubarb pie. We grow rhubarb. My wife makes wonderful rhubarb pie and sauce and whatever else you can figure out to do with it. And believe it or not, both our kids, we taught to like rhubarb. Oh my God. And then you have raisin pie, also known as funeral pie, because most funerals happen in January. That's a fact because I was in charge of our local cemetery for 5 years. Oh my God, twice as many funerals in January as any other month, and you have no fresh fruit, so you use raisins. Go figure. World famous shoe fly. Do you know both kinds? Wet bottom and dry bottom? And my personal favorite, mincemeat pie. It's hard to get it now because people keep shooting all the mints. They're dying rapidly. They're almost extinct. Fruit pies. We didn't waste whole fruit. If part of it was rotten, cut it out, make a fruit pie out of it. Pineapple upside down cake. From Hawaii? Yes, we have some stuff from Hawaii. Schnitz pie, which is dried apples. Another Dutch favorite, Apies cake. What does that mean and how is it spelled? Who knows? Montgomery pie, if you're from down towards Philly. And the one that makes me laugh, funny cake. Yes, okay. Snacks. Now, this is really weird. They are now internationally famous, funnel cakes. 20 years ago, we took our kids to Disney World, went over to SeaWorld. In the middle of SeaWorld, was a big funnel cake stand. Aye. Fastnacks. Of course, everybody knows Fastnacks. No, they're not donuts. They're different. They're made different. They're shaped different. They're either rectangular or triangular. They're definitely not round, and definitely do not have a hole in it. Fastnacht means Fastnacht, night of fasting. It's before the season before Easter comes, Lent, so you got to use up all this stuff. Okay, pretzels, invented in Ephrata. I made one there at the original pretzel factory. Tripe, one of the things you can have my share. Unfortunately, most people don't know about kohlrabi. It's like an above-ground turnip, which is green in color, much sweeter and finer grain. Oh my God, so good raw or in salads. Potato candy, if you like sweet stuff. Yum, yum. It is made with potatoes. Souse, another thing you can have my share of. Horseradish, grow your own. Sauerkraut. Yum. And we know that's what you call ill-tempered Germans, right? Sauerkrauts. Okay? Bigfoot jelly. Yum, yum, yum. Ring bologna. That's the local cheer. It really is. For decades. Ring bologna once. Ring bologna twice. Kutztown. Gee, that's nice. Oxtail soup, which is getting hard to find anymore. Snapper soup, which is getting really hard to find. And one of my personal favorites, when you haven't got much money, you make river soup. Oh my God, with milk. Okay, if you have any other questions or comments, you can ask me when I'm done. Oh my God, I'm going pretty fast here. Maybe I shouldn't have gone that fast. Maybe I should have just gone half fast. Have to watch my electrocution there. Sometimes it just doesn't come out right. Well, that's okay. We'll go to my favorite and my best instrument. This is the one you see in the pictures all over the place. It's called an auto harp. And this is a big fancy one. I'll tell you why. But the way the auto harp works, underneath the bars is felt. And the felt is left on to block out the bad notes for that chord and cut out to let the good notes make noise. For example, suppose you want to play the Mexican chord. C. Push a bar and strum, the chord of surprise. G. The chord for us, for those of us who are hard of hearing, A. And the chord for those who, poor guys that dig coal out of mountains because they are A minor. So this was invented in the late 1800s in Philadelphia by a guy named Charles Zimmerman. I wonder what nationality he was. Gee. And again, I was able to go to West Virginia and take auto harp lessons, beginning first time, intermediate advanced, second time from some of the best in the world. And I met the lady who published my favorite magazine ever. It really is, it's still in print. It's called the Auto Harpaholic. Think about that. And she interviewed me for the magazine, then she put me on the board of directors. So this is my baby. This auto harp was made by friends of mine who I met at the Kutztown Folk Festival. They had an instrument company in Connecticut called Folkcraft. When they wanted to make auto harps, instead of modern dulcimers and regular dulcimers and hammered dulcimers and Irish harps, they asked me. They sent me a sample. I tested it and sent it back. So they gave me credit for being consultant. So the really beautiful Pennsylvania Dutch style painting on here, you can see this on my website, much better, was done by a wonderful local artist I know, my wife. So, what you do when you learn to play this, first of all, you just learn to strum, push a bar, and strum with the thumb pick, like this. And then you learn to pick melody with your middle finger. Let me adjust my strap here. Like this. And then you add a low harmony with your index finger. And I can also add a high harmony with my little finger and a high harmony with my ring finger, but that gets pretty fancy and I run out of room here. So we'll do a typical Pennsylvania Dutch old-time gospel song. Back in the good old days, 150 years ago, in the summertime when it was hot and humid, they couldn't have church services inside because the electric fans and air conditioners weren't running. They weren't invented yet. Electric fans weren't running either. They had no electricity. So they go outside where the land sloped and have a preacher and a song leader, and they preach and sing for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours. Doesn't that sound like fun? This is one of the songs they used. It's called Hartig Mal die Engel, wie sie singen Joseph Shea. Listen once to the angels, how prettily they sing. I'll play the melody first for you, and the melody sounds almost exactly like a very famous Civil War gospel song. I won't tell you what it is, see if you recognize it. And then I'll sing a verse. What they would do, the song leader would ask, usually the women first, "Oh, sisters, do you want to go along to New Jerusalem?" And the women would sing back, "Yes, yes, we want to go along to New Jerusalem." And then they sing the chorus, Hartig Mal die Engel, wie sie singen Joseph Shea. So I'll just do one verse, because when they asked the brothers if they wanted to go along, they might say, "No, the women are there." No, I'm sorry. So watch this melody. What's it sound like? Schwester wil du mit uns gehen? Oh, Schwester wil du mit uns gehen? Oh, Schwester wil du mit uns gehen nach Jerusalem? And they answer, ja, ja, wir wollen mit euch gehen. Ja, ja, wir wollen mit euch gehen. Ja, ja, wir wollen mit euch gehen nach Jerusalem. Hartig Mal die Engel, wie sie singen Joseph Shea. Hartig Mal die Engel, wie sie singen Joseph Shea. Hartig Mal die Engel, wie sie singen Joseph Shea. In Jerusalem. Muchas gracias. Okay, now I'm doing better on time than I thought I would, so I'm going to give you a bonus. Okay. If we try and keep everything the way it used to be, things are going to die out. So we have to adjust and get some new ideas and keep the good stuff and get rid of the bad stuff. Now, when I was young, last century, I played in many pop rock bands, and I know all those songs from the 50s and 60s and 70s. And we have 2 children, so I heard all the songs from the 80s and 90s also. So this is a song by my personal favorite pop rock singer, a guy you probably never heard of, named Jimmy Buffett. Well, I was at his original Margaritaville restaurant in Key West, Florida. A few years ago, I had a cheeseburger in paradise and the best margarita I ever had in my life. I was as close to heaven as I'll get until I'm dead, and even then I might get there, but that's another story. So anyway, I took his most popular song and wrote a parody. This is my English Pennsylvania Dutch version of Margaritaville. So, you're not Dutch through and through unless you recognize everything in the song. Okay? Here we go. I thank you all for listening. Even if you weren't listening, I can't tell, so that's okay. Whoa! Nibbling on shoe fly, waiting for rhubarb pie. All of these tourists looking for food, strumming my autumn harp, picking out melody parts. Smell that pot pie, it's gonna be good. Here it comes. Wasting away again in Jägermeisterstadt. Searching for my bottle of peppermint schnapps. Some people claim that there's a woman to blame, but I know Dutchy women are tops. I don't know the reason. It's Alpha Dritzel season, but I need some help from biohex sign. The hunting is better in Disselfink weather. I think I'll just have some dandelion wine. Wasting away again in Jägermeisterstadt. Searching for my bottle of peppermint schnapps. Some people claim that there's a woman to blame, but I know Dutchy women are tops. I kicked off my farm boots, stumbled on tree roots, hurt my toes, had to hobble back home. But there's schnapps in the kitchen, and apples were schnitzing, and sausage sandwiches help me hang on. Wasting away again in Jägermeisterstadt. Searching for my bottle of peppermint schnapps. Aye, aye, aye. Some people claim that there's a woman to blame, but I know Dutchy women are tops. Yeah, I said some people claim that there's a woman to blame, but I know Dutchy women are tops. Thank you very much. Girls down. Mascoot.
Thank you so much. That was very entertaining. If anybody has a question or two for Keith, why we can maybe give you another couple of minutes if anybody wants to unmute themselves and offer a question or comment. I think it was just wonderful.
I have a question. Where was the pretzel factory?
Ephrata.
Where in Ephrata?
It's on one of the main streets coming in from the from the east side of Ephrata. And it was a long time ago, 25, 30 years ago, that I was there to make a pretzel, but it may not be there anymore.
It probably is. That's my hometown.
Oh, really? It was the first pretzel factory in the country, the first commercial factory.
Yeah,
and they were hand twisted then, and mine was hand twisted too.
After I missed class with the Grimms, I missed the pretzel factory as well.
Bummer. Do you know why? The theory why pretzels are shaped the way they were?
No, I don't think I do.
They said that it showed people in prayer with arms crossed.
Oh, of course. I did know that.
See, you're smarter than you thought you were.
Well, I guess so. Excellent program. I howled the whole way through.
Good.
I have a
Thanks, Keith. It was
question.
great.
Yeah, so is the Pennsylvania Dutch language spoken outside of the Amish community very much?
Yes and no.
Yes and
If
no.
yeah, amongst older local people, yes. Younger people, unless they have a unusual interest in it and or have taken a class, mine or somebody else's, then it's not spoken very much. So if you go to auctions or sales, that's a good place to hear it. Go to farmers markets, a good place to hear it too. Those are probably the two best places, and of course with older people, except of course for Amish. Now, what's interesting is many Amish who are in business have gotten lazy, and they'll use an English word instead of a good Dutch word. So a lot of Amish, especially ones in business, don't speak as much or as good Pennsylvania Dutch as they used to.
Interesting.
And if you see the movie Hiva Vidriva, they interview some Amish girls working there, and you can hear, oh my God, it's like, you don't speak fluent Dutch? No. Questions. I love questions.
I have a question, Keith.
Shoot.
Is sour cream raisin pie?
Oh, no, wait. Okay, thank you. I'm so glad. I made a big mistake. The original pretzel factory was not in Erfurt. I was in Lidditz. Lidditz, yeah. I'm sorry. I apologize. That's probably the second or third mistake I made this year. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's right. It's Sturgis. It's right along the main drag, right across from the Moravian.
There you go.
Church.
Yep. You're right. Yep.
And
My
actually, I
mistake.
was just there this summer.
I was just seeing if you were paying attention. Okay, question. Sorry, I interrupt you, Michael.
Yes. Sour cream raisin pie, is that typical of the region or is that further west?
Now, wait, say that again.
Sour cream raisin pie.
Sour cream raisin pie? I never heard of it.
It's meringue with I had a great grandmother that said it came from Pennsylvania, but I don't know.
Right. Now, again, a lot of this you have to always remember, as I said in the history part, when they came over, they came in groups from their area or town. And when they got over here, they stayed in the same groups. You don't want to go to a strange land hundreds of years ago, live by yourself or with just your family. So whatever they did over there, they transferred over here locally. So that's why you have all the little differences in dialects and even some in food. So.
Yes, for instance, the use of saffron or no saffron.
Right. Yeah. I was too yellow to use that.
I grew up in an area where we never heard of saffron, and then found an area where my other relatives live where it's used in everything.
Yep.
I think that's one of the most interesting things about the Pennsylvania Dutch food is there's so much variation within the Pennsylvania Dutch.
Yep. I saw a question on the screen there. It vanished now. Is it easier to learn German or Pennsylvania Dutch? Boy, can we answer the easy questions first? Let's see. Sour cream raisin pie. Okay, South Dakota. Wow. Well, I would say it's probably very similar if you go take a class. If you learn on your own, there's two ways of learning language. What do they call one? One is immersion, which is the way we learn growing up. Everybody around you speaks one language, so you better learn to speak the language. Or the other way is, I call it academic, which is you go take lessons, classes in that. So one of the, it's off the top of my head, and I took 2 years of German in high school and 2 years in college and so on. And I had German students in my class, my Pennsylvania Dutch class at Kutztown University. And it makes it easier for sentence order, but sometimes it screws them up for pronunciation. Yeah. My numero uno example was always D-E-R. Okay, in German it's der. In Dutch it's da. And I had a German major who was really good, one of my best students I ever had. And we'd do reading and she'd always say, there. I said, no, it's da. But so you know, the other thing about German is umlauts. That takes a little practice learning. When do you use an umlaut? When do you not? How do you pronounce an umlaut? Yeah. So anyway, but other than that, yeah, it would be pretty similar in my opinion, except for the umlauts. Questions. Come on, you guys must have been thinking. Or don't you think anymore? You gave that up.
I gave it up.
Oh, another question. Michael Berg, I see your finger there.
Yeah. Some of the settlers came in the 1740s, 1750s, and came in through Philadelphia, stayed a while in Pennsylvania, and then went south to Virginia.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yep. Virginia and Delaware. There's also a big early settlement in North Carolina. And the most unusual one was the French Huguenots. They were in France originally, and they were Protestant, and they got persecuted by the King of France. They moved across the Rhine to the Palatinate, to the Pfalz, for about 10 years, and they were treated so well. And then Queen Elizabeth, I think it was Queen Elizabeth, needed workers for make pine tar and other stuff for the ships. So many of them left, sailed over to England, and sailed up the Hudson to New Paltz. How about that, New Paltz? Why couldn't I remember New Paltz? Where they lived and formed a settlement there. And if you go there today, I was there about 10, 12 years ago, it's a combination, beautiful, restored, historic German village. Actually, Pennsylvania Dutch is more Pennsylvania Dutch and German colonial, and arts crafts community. It's fantastic. Now, some of them stayed there, some of them left. It came down overland, which in those days was borderline miraculous, and came to the Reading area, the area they call Tulpehocken, which is Native American for land of the turtle. So, and including one of my ancestors, what was his name? Oh, can't think of his name. He's they donated they donated the land for one of the churches in Bowers, which is outside Alliance, which is outside of Kutztown. Can't think of the last name. Anyway, yeah, so I could talk for the next couple of weeks. What would a typical German be able to bring with them on their journey to America in the 1700s?
It was Queen Anne.
Pardon?
It was Queen Anne. Not
Queen Anne, okay,
Elizabeth.
yeah. I said too many queens in England. Yeah, just
So
kings
many,
and queens.
yeah, right.
Yeah, whatever, yeah. Well, what would they bring with them? Well, anything that was easy to carry that wouldn't spoil. If they needed money and they had anything worth some money, they could sell that and make some money. But, it was a long, dangerous journey. Bringing anything valuable could easily be stolen. Down the river, down the Rhine, past the robbers, to Holland, over to England, and then over here. And, if they had any kind of a chest, and there were a lot of them that did, whatever they could fit in the chest and carry the chest, that was safer and so on. But, again, it's hard for us to imagine how bad things had been in what was going to become Germany in the Palatinate, and how desperate these people were to get out of there, taking along very little clothing and whatever else they could use on their journey. And most of them, like I said, were indentured servants. They were too poor to pay for the trip. So you work for 3, 5, or 7 years and you hope for the best. Comment on powwows. Stanley Yvonne? Jan. Where is he? Oh, don't see him.
I'm here.
Oh, there you go. Hey, hi, Stanley.
Yep, it's John. You had mentioned in passing about powwows.
All right, good.
To come back to, so I wanted to hear your perspectives.
Okay, I have an accurate, detailed perspective, but I'm going to cut it down. When I was like 5 or 6 years old, I saw my mother get powwowed. Now, I don't remember what it was she had, but she'd gone to the doctor, gotten pills, medication, took them for 3 or 4 days, didn't get any better. So she went to her mother, and I saw this, and we went into the kitchen. They had one of those old cast iron wood stoves, and she started a fire, and then she stuck a corn cup in there, just a cup, got it lit, burning pretty well, and then blew it out, so it was smoking. So she stood holding the smoking corn cup and moved it in an ellipse or an oval around my mother, top to bottom around, while she was chanting something in Dutch. Within a few days, my mother was healthy. You figure it out.
So can I add that I was powwowed on as a kid? And
Oh, yeah?
and my mother used powwowing all the time. And her father, her uncle was a well-known powwower, and it goes man, woman, woman.
Right. Good point.
Right. So she was taught by her uncle, but she had 2 daughters, so she never passed it on. But she also did it for fun. And so we had this one that we used to use for fun, which goes, Hele, hinkodrecht, bis Maria Fries, is alles weg.
Yep. Holy chicken foot, by tomorrow morning, everything's going away.
Right.
Yep.
And that we said that growing up, whenever you bumped your knee, Hele, it'd go, Hele,
that's right.
hinkodrecht, bis Maria Fries, is alles weg.
Yep.
Yep.
And some of these things could possibly be, they make sense, but some of them are so ridiculous, like some of the stuff for warts, cut off the wart, put it under a rain spot, and yada, yada, yada. I have no clue. Okay, something flashed up and disappeared again. Flash it up again.
But,
I don't know who it was.
Was it me that did that?
Nope.
No.
Oh, yeah, that's a good book.
Yeah.
I have about 175 books in our own Pennsylvania Dutch stuff.
I have about 3 of those. But that's
the 2 comments I'm seeing. Somebody asked Marcia, was Isaac Zern your mother's uncle?
That's one of them. Yep.
No, it wasn't him. It was Hefner. So it was probably nobody that you know. I'm trying to remember his first name, but Hefner was the last name.
Okay.
No.
Not here.
And Christine says that she'd never heard of powwow except from the Native American perspective. So yeah, this is a different interpretation of powwowing. It was used
completely
in the
different thing.
Dutch. Yeah.
Same words, same spelling, but completely different thing.
Keith, do you know where the term powwowing came from, the Pennsylvania Dutch use of it?
No, I don't. The book I held up, is that Patrick Dunmoyer's?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Patrick Dunmoyer is one of, I would say, half a dozen world experts on Pennsylvania German stuff.
He is. Yeah.
He and one other lady run the Pennsylvania German Cultural Heritage Center at Kutztown University.
Mhm.
He's only he's around 30. He's married, just had his 2nd child, but he's written, I think, 4 books himself already.
Mhm.
And he is expert. He's really good on the language and so on. The other guy good on language is Doug Maidenford, who's also a good friend of mine. He's a German teacher up in State College area. And he wrote the best book. This is this Schretzmal Deutsch. Doug Maidenford. He also does online lessons. And he also has, I'm going to warn you, a sense of humor very similar to mine.
Oh, we're in trouble.
That's right. You got it.
All right.
Any other questions? I love questions or comments.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank
My
you very
pleasure.
much. Thanks very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
As we say,
Wonderful.
as we say around here, mach's gut.
That's good.
Sehr gut. Sehr gut.
Likewise.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. Thank you, Keith, for your entertaining and informative presentation. And thanks to all of you who attended and learned from Keith and participated in our annual meeting. So I thank you. And I hope that we will continue to connect either in person or via Zoom over the next year. So
Thanks, Janet.
thank you all very much.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you, Janet.
Muchas gracias. Hasta luego.